Welcome to Rockit Garage, and on this episode we're actually going to be installing the second all 4-speed for this 1960 El Camino. Engine's already been installed, most of the accessories are put on, and then now we just have to make sure that the transmission, clutch, flywheel, bell housing, all of that stuff is copacetic with each other, and then hopefully we're gonna fire this thing up. I don't know, I can't promise that, but that's the goal for this video, is to actually hear this car run for the first time. And it's been a long time coming. Almost all the body work is done. It's in final prime. And yeah, we just gotta get into it. So here we go. So we have this bell housing, GM, there's the serial number, part number for it. I don't know what this came out of, and I'm not gonna look it up. Took the engine mounts off because obviously the transmission has the mount, not the sides. And the big problem here is I don't know if this starter is going to interfere with this starter on this engine's bolted to the block, and that starter's bolted to the bell housing, so I'm probably gonna have to cut that off. And then, well, I found them already. So here's the flex plate bolts, and here is the flywheel bolts. So these are 1 inch, and these are 3/4, right there. So that's a good thing that I found those. We have a throwout bearing with the fork. We have the clutch, pressure plate, and what else? Also have the pilot bushing. And we just need to clean off that flywheel and stick it in the truck and hope all this stuff kind of goes together. It's a GM. It'll probably all go together. Flywheel is in, pilot bearing is in, all 6 bolts have been torqued. I think it's gonna fit. So I don't have the tool to align the clutch into the pinion bushing, so I ordered that. Waiting for that to come in, so we got to move on to some other things. As you can see, I have the bell housing with a couple bolts on it. Got the oil filter pulled off, letting that drain. Got the canister pretty much cleaned up. I'm gonna wipe it down again and then spray that to match the engine. And we're moving on to figuring out how I'm gonna make this starter work. It looks like I'm gonna have to lop off this ear right there. Shouldn't be too bad, but then I gotta figure out if the starter and the flywheel are gonna engage, figure that out. So it's just gonna take me some time piddling around, just bouncing between everything. But this hopefully doesn't turn into a nightmare. So the original starter that came on the engine's not gonna work, but the starter that came off the car seems like it's gonna work. So I went to town, and I only had 1 bolt, so I went to town. They did not have flanged bolts, which I don't like, but I gotta do what I gotta do. So this thing should go right in. And I also took that stud out, and I don't think I'm gonna have to cut the bell housing, which is super nice. Trying to get this old gasket out is petrified, stuck in there. Wow. So I had to order one of these pilot alignment tools for the clutch. Now the pressure plate's all torqued up, and we can go ahead and throw the bell housing on, hopefully for the final time. I had to clean the interior. It was getting bad, and working under here. Let me get my flashlight out. I got the clutch pedal reassembled because it was already in the car, so that was nice. Got the linkage, the Z-bar linkage installed. That actually functions the way it should. Also have the shifter just temporarily installed because I still got to put the plate over it and put the shift boot on it, but for now I can shift it and make sure it goes through all the gears. Other than that, the interior is what it is for now. Got the carburetor on it. I think this one's, yeah, it's a Holley carburetor. Got new studs put in it. I'm waiting on a spring bracket and a linkage to go back to the factory throttle bracket. Let's see, what else have I done? Fan shroud is bolted on, battery is back in it. I have got a couple things rewired. Found the starter wire, just put a little splice right there. I gotta clean these wires up because I gotta figure out what they go to. Put oil in it, put new valve cover gaskets, filled it with oil, like I said. I still need to install the fuel lines that go from the hard line to the pump, and obviously to the carburetor. Finally went to town and got a 1/4-inch plug for the bottom of that reservoir. I filled it up, now I'm just kind of letting it work its way down. So the few things I have left to do on this car is bleed and adjust the brakes, install the trans mount, and figure out the drive shaft, throttle linkage, a couple vacuum lines, a couple wires for the alternator because we went from a generator to the alternator, so I'm gonna rewire that, figure out those wires in the engine bay, and what else? It's getting close. So now that the brakes are bled, I went to go crank it over to try it, and we've got no spark. We've got power at the coil, but I jumped the starter over here just so I can see. Anyways, got power at the coil, power going to the cap. I'm gonna say that the reason we don't have spark is this rotor's dead. It looks pretty burnt up, so I'm gonna order one of these and hopefully that's the only problem. So I figured out why it didn't have spark. That green wire down there needs to be hooked up to 12 volts while cranking, and that starter doesn't have a secondary post. I tried hooking it to just the starter solenoid switch, but it didn't work. Anyways, I jumped it to the battery and it fired right up, which is awesome. Still waiting on a bunch of parts for the carburetor, but now that we can move on, now I know it puffs to life. I want to actually, before I show you guys that it does, I want it to run. So I went to town, bought a bunch of fittings and hoses and plugs and everything. So I'm gonna get to work on that, and then we'll come back and hopefully those parts come in and this thing will run on its own. All right, let's see if we can get this thing to pick up fuel from the tank. That feels right. Test it. The exhaust isn't hooked up. That will be an issue. Okay, I think we're gonna end this video here. Still waiting on some parts to show up that got delayed in shipping, so there's nothing I can do about that. But essentially, the car starts, and for the most part, it should run and drive once the rebuild kit for the carburetor gets in, and I finish up a couple linkages. Transmission's in it, clutch is in it, engine's in it. most of the drivetrain is sorted out. So hopefully when those parts come in, we will have a driving car and hopefully we can whip this thing around the property. But for now, I'm gonna wait and I'm gonna get back onto body work, get the roof done, get the tailgate done, and this car will be ready for paint. So hopefully the timelines kind of mesh together. And then I actually have some interior work to do. So hopefully that's another video, because that's a big one. But for the most part, drivetrain, body work, car's getting close. So anyways, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. And I think probably the next video for this is going to be the rest of the body work, getting it ready for paint. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, Happy New Year. And get something done on your own projects. Thanks for liking, subscribing, watching, doing all that stuff. See you on the next one.